When a show has been on the air as long as Rick and Morty has, or has been as successful as Rick and Morty, one thing is always inevitable: spin-offs. Some spin-offs flop, some spin-offs actually do better than the original show. But usually, spin-offs are pretty well known to the fan base of the original show. Rick and Morty, on the other hand, had a spin-off so random that to this day, almost no one has talked about it. And no, I am not talking about Rick and Morty anime. Instead, in 2022, unknown to many of even the most diehard Rick and Morty fans, Adult Swim released Vindicators 2, a 10-episode short series. And when I say short, I really mean short. Most of these episodes were max 2 minutes, so the whole spin-off itself adds up to one regular length Rick and Morty episode. Still, that is an entire episode worth of content that 90% of fans have not watched. This series is fully available on YouTube, so if you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend you go watch it, because this entire video will be spoilers. Before we get into the full series, I want to quickly recap the previous saga of the Vindicators. So the Vindicators are a hero group introduced in Season 3 episode Vindicators 3, The Return of World Ender. The main Vindicators in this installment are Vance Maximus, Alan Rails, Supernova, Crocubot, Million Ants, and Noob. The episode follows Rick and Morty being called to adventure by the Vindicators when they discover the return of their arch nemesis, World Ender. Morty forces Rick to go, and Rick does the thing he does and crashes their meeting. When they awake to him blacked out, covered in his own waste. Sorry, Noob. The Vindicators go to face their villain, and then they realize that they need Rick. After waking him up, they discover Rick had already killed their big villain, and one by one, he killed each of the members off indirectly, but still by his own doing. At the end of the episode, Supernova is revealed to have cheated on her husband Alan with Million Ants, and she ends up allowing the death of both of them. These deaths are due to what Rick caused, but he did not go and kill them. After it's revealed Rick had a huge party planned that the whole episode led up to, Supernova escapes off without any trouble. Instead of going forward with the story of this group, we got this prequel series, which is honestly a very good choice on the writer's end. They even set it up perfectly in the Rick and Morty episode, when they reveal a lot of information of the Vindicators that they don't actually show us. The biggest and most important thing in the original episode is when Rick says,
They're the writers of their own press releases, Morty.
that couldn't be more spot on. In the episode, Morty sees on his iPad,
Bunch of them got killed too. They lost Lady Katana, Calypso, Diablo Verde.
They wanted to not need me so bad they murdered 3 innocent heroes of color and they still had to bring me back?
the article Morty reads is clearly biased and influenced by the Vindicators themselves. This is just a glimpse into the corruption that lies beneath the surface that the mini-series fully shows us. Vindicators 2 is broken up into 10 mini-episodes, starring around the main cast from the Rick and Morty episode, plus 3 previously deceased members: Lady Katana, Calypso, and Diablo Verde. The only exclusions are Rick and Morty, who are mentioned but not a part of the main story. The miniseries follows a linear format, but it doesn't really feel like that because of the amount of side stories we get. Million Ants has an episode about him where he feels like a monster and he doesn't know what to do with himself. This episode took him from a soulless being to one people can sympathize with a bit more. Following a similar story, the next episode focused on Crocubot and his emotions and how he chooses to handle them through dancing. And then Noob got his own episode where he tries to deal with being the punching bag for the team and never really being acknowledged for his value. He experiences love for the first time, but even that ends up failing miserably for him. Noob never gets a break from anyone or anything. We also get 2 episodes dedicated to Supernova, showing off how bad of a person she is. In one, she genocides an entire planet for fun. In the other, she kills off 3 of the members who she lied about, saying they bravely died in a battle. This series shows how dark the Vindicators are and for allowing all this to happen, and always acting as if they are the heroes, when in reality, they are the only villains in the whole series. This, however, is not the case for every Vindicator. Alan Rails is by far the main protagonist in the plot of the show because he gets not 2 or 3, but 4 episodes unraveling his past and his true intentions. He deals with the loss of what he thought was his child, the loss of his parents, his complete loss of innocence. He is not as evil, if even evil at all, compared to the rest of the Vindicators. Because of the disparity in all their morals, I want to rank Vindicators by their morals on an evilness scale. By far, Supernova is the worst, killing billions, lying to her husband, abusing Noob, and more. Whenever she is present, there will always be inevitable destruction. Next, there is Vance Maximus. He clearly has a questionable set of morals, but his intentions are more for personal benefit and to keep up a good image, which definitely makes him more evil than others, but not compared to the likes of Supernova. Next, I have Million Ants. He's never really that important to the story, but as just an object used by Supernova to cheat on Alan, and he is very prideful of that fact. Unlike the other two, he is capable of showing real emotions, both good and bad, so he is definitely far less evil and mentally aware. Now, a neutral character would be Crocubot. He doesn't really have any evil intentions, or on the other hand, a desire to fix what the Vindicators have done. Instead, he is struggling with his own identity, much like Million Ants, but in a less outburstish way. The first of the actual morally right characters is Alan. Alan is the only one, time after time, to be emotional and right minded. He is driven by his emotion, not by his intent, and that causes problems, not for others, but for himself. He never is able to fully grasp the loss of anything. Alan shows the face of good in the group, the one who does so much behind the scenes but never gets any credit. He is the problem solver and the only one who truly does his job for good. At the end of the show, when they make up the lies about their mission, he's the only one to object because he is the only one capable of remorse and guilt of his own actions. Alan, though, can still be considered less evil than Noob Noob. Noob is nothing but a joke to the others, but he is so proud and excited to come into work, something that you never see someone like Supernova doing. Noob never does anything wrong, but the world always wrongs him. He can't even find love without that ending in disaster. Even though he is the most intelligent and capable of all the Vindicators, there's nothing sadder than watching how Noob gets treated after seeing the way he treats others. These characters aren't just varying levels of evil. I believe they are metaphors for Rick himself. As a group, they represent a collection of Rick's different traits, Supernova being Rick's rage and bad intentions, Vance being his ego, Million Ants his loneliness and cockiness, Noob his fear and overwhelming intelligence, and most importantly, Alan. Alan lost his family just like Rick, and that leads him to represent his depression, grief, and alcoholism. I see little bits of Rick inside each of the Vindicators, and their flaws added up together represent the same dysfunctionality that Rick has. Rick's toxic traits, much like the Vindicators, get the best of him, but in Rick's case, he has come to terms with all of them instead of being defined by one of these individually. In the end, Rick was right about the Vindicators, and I think that's exactly what the writers want. Rick is unique in that he has all of these traits, and he's still able to make these crazy inventions and have a full family life, and it makes total sense. A group of people with little fragments of Rick would never work, especially when they end up relying on Rick, who inevitably killed both of their main enemies. The Vindicators weren't really their own identities as much as they were Rick split into a bunch of personalities, like how Morty was when he was trapped in Roy. Rick wasn't the visible main character of the series, but he was definitely the overarching main character. I really hope we get more Vindicators in future seasons of Rick and Morty. I know all but Supernova died, but there was still more to explore, like giving us an episode about Vindicators 1. But there's always ways to bring back the dead characters like Rick and Morty has done so many times before. With all that being said, thank you for watching my first upload. Be sure to check out the full series if you haven't already, and subscribe for weekly Rick and Morty content.